The ocean was never meant to belong to kings. But for a brief moment in history, it didn't. There was a time when the most dangerous men on earth didn't serve any flag, didn't follow any law, and didn't answer to any empire. They built something of their own. Not just ships, not just crews, a system, a way of life, a world where power wasn't inherited, it was chosen, where a captain could be removed by a vote, where treasure wasn't hoarded, it was shared, and where freedom came at a cost, a brutal cost, because freedom at sea meant living with violence, it meant survival, and it meant war against everyone. And then the empires noticed. November 22nd, 1718, the water near Ocracoke Inlet was still, cold, silent, the kind of silence that feels wrong. Two British sloops waited in the distance, barely moving. On board, the men were hidden, no movement, no noise, because this wasn't just another patrol, this was a hunt, and the man they were hunting was a legend, Blackbeard, a pirate whose name spread faster than ships could sail, a man who didn't just fight, he terrified. Stories followed him everywhere, smoke coming from his beard during battle, eyes hidden behind shadows, a presence that made men surrender before the first shot. But on that morning, there would be no fear, only violence. The first cannon fired just after sunrise. The explosion shattered the silence. Smoke filled the air. Men screamed. In seconds, everything changed. The British ships took heavy damage. Men fell, blood covered the deck. But this was part of the plan. The British commander had expected this. He ordered his surviving men to disappear below deck. From the outside, the ship looked empty, broken, defeated. And that's exactly what the pirates believed. They moved in, confident, unaware. And the moment they boarded, everything flipped. Hidden soldiers rushed out, weapons drawn. Close combat began instantly. No space, no distance, just blades, guns, chaos. The fight didn't last long, it didn't need to. Because when it ended, the legend was gone. Blackbeard was shot multiple times, cut down, piece by piece, and even then, he kept fighting, until he couldn't. His body fell, but the message had just begun. His head was cut off, and hung from the ship. Not as victory, as a warning. Because what died that day wasn't just a pirate, it was the beginning of the end. Years before that battle, the world had created the perfect conditions for piracy. War had dominated Europe. For years, nations fought across oceans, and they needed men, thousands of them. Navigators, men trained for one purpose, war at sea. But when the wars ended, those men were no longer needed. No jobs, no purpose, no future. Imagine spending years learning how to fight, only to be told you're no longer needed. So they turned to the only thing they knew, the sea, but this time, on their own terms. Piracy didn't grow slowly, it exploded. Ships disappeared, trade routes became dangerous, merchants lost money, fear spread, but something else spread with it, an idea. In the Bahamas, on an island called New Providence, a new world was forming. No government, no control, no empire, just opportunity. Ships filled the harbor, captured vessels, stolen goods, men from every background, all living under one rule. There were no rules. But chaos doesn't last long. Even pirates understood that, so they created structure. Crews voted, captains were chosen, and if they failed, they were removed. Treasure was divided equally. No kings, no elites, no one above the rest. If a man was injured, he was compensated. If he lost a limb, he was paid before anyone else. Think about that. At a time when most sailors were treated like property, pirates created something that looked like fairness. At the center of it all was Benjamin Hornigold. Not the most feared, not the most famous, but one of the most important. He understood something others didn't. That survival wasn't just about strength, it was about structure. He trained others, built alliances, created stability in a world built on risk. For a moment, it worked. Pirates weren't just surviving, they were thriving. And that's what made them dangerous. Because empires don't fear criminals, they fear systems they can't control. The British Empire was watching, and it didn't like what it saw. Trade was collapsing, money was disappearing, power was being challenged. So they changed their strategy. Instead of destroying pirates all at once, they broke them from within. The king made an offer. Surrender, and you'll be forgiven. Keep fighting, and you'll be hunted. It was simple, but it worked. Because not every pirate wanted to die. Some wanted peace, some wanted safety, some wanted a way out. And slowly, they took it. Friends became enemies, allies disappeared, trust broke down. The system started to collapse. Even the strongest names couldn't survive. Calico Jack was captured, hanged. His story ended in chains. One of the most successful pirates in history, killed in battle. The ocean was changing. Navies became stronger. Laws became faster. Punishments became brutal. Pirates were no longer feared. They were hunted. Their bodies were displayed, left hanging near ports, swinging in the wind, a warning to anyone who thought about following the same path. By the 1720s, it was over. The golden age of piracy had ended. But here's what history doesn't always explain clearly. These men were violent, dangerous, often ruthless, but they also built something different. A world where power wasn't controlled by birth, where decisions were shared, where even the lowest sailor had a voice. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was theirs, and for a short time it existed. Then it was erased, not just by force, but by strategy, division, pressure, control. The empires didn't just win with ships, they won with patience. And when it was over, the ocean returned to kings, to companies, to control. But the idea never fully disappeared, because once people experience freedom, even for a moment, they remember it. And maybe that's what made pirates truly dangerous. Not their ships, not their weapons, but the idea they represented. And that's why they had to be destroyed.